Hey guys, it's Mark and I'm the part-time British guy. Benedict Arnold. What do we really know? Well, let me boil it down to cause and effect. He was a major general in the Revolutionary War Continental Army who betrayed his country. He was willing to give up West Point to Major John Andre as to be able to perform a lethal blow to the Continental forces. Now, when going to school and reading up on the Revolutionary War as a kid, it was that cut and dry. Benedict Arnold was a general who betrayed his country. He gave plans to the British to turn over West Point. But John Andre was captured and the plot was foiled. And that was it. That was the meat and potatoes of everything that you need to know about Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold, Hero Betrayed, was narrated by Martin Sheen, and what made that so interesting was you learned about the man. Now, I'm really hoping that this documentary is based on a lot of historical fact. It seems to be. But you got to know what Benedict Arnold did during the Revolutionary War, before 1780. And that's really important because it builds to why Arnold did what he did. Now, am I saying what he did was right? I'm not justifying anything. He betrayed his country. There is no right and wrong. It was 100% wrong. He betrayed his country. But there were factors that literally led to this. There was events that led to this man's downfall. So many factors. If you watch the documentary, you get to learn what an incredible leader he was. But he also was an individual who had a lot of political enemies. So he had people who didn't want him to succeed, people who used their own influence to prevent him from getting promoted. And, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, and I'm not trying to say that I'm justifying it, but we as Americans don't have the full story. We as Americans have this cut and dry position about Benedict Arnold. To give you an example, in Saratoga there's a monument and there are statues on 3 of the 4 sides. It's a 4-sided monument. It's very, very tall, and Gates is on there, and I forgot who else. But they're Revolutionary War leaders who won the Battle of Saratoga, who turned the tide of war in that historic battle. One of the areas where you would have a statue is missing. It's the 4th area, because like I said, it has 4 sides. And there are Revolutionary War leaders on 3 of the 4 sides. The 4th one is empty because the 4th one is for Benedict Arnold. He was a pivotal general in that battle. But because of what he did, he doesn't get a statue. West Point has got names and ranks and dates of births for all the important leaders during the Revolutionary War. There's one that just has a year of birth and a rank. It simply says Major General, and I think it's 1740, I believe, is when Benedict Arnold was born. And that's all there is on that plaque. There's no name. So it's kind of interesting because when you watch the documentary, Arnold was this big hero. Now, I don't know if the colonials at the particular time publicly villainized Arnold because they were afraid that people might defect to the British side or whatever. I don't know. What I do know is that when going to school, it was cut and dry. It was just Benedict Arnold betrayed his country. He attempted to give West Point to the British. The plans for West Point were hidden in Major John Andre's boot, and the plot was foiled. Benedict Arnold fled and joined the British. And that's all you know. That's all there was to history. Hi, and welcome to the Part-Time British Guy's Patreon page. If you'd like to support the channel, it would always be for the greater good. The greater good. You can do so for as little as $1 to up to $3. That's a way of showing your general support. To give you an example, $1 is equal to 1,000 views in YouTube. So it would be helping the greater good. The greater good. Now for $5 you get your name listed in the credits at the end of every video, as long as you support the channel. It helps the greater good. The greater good. Now for $7 you get your name listed in the credits and you get a shout out from the Part-Time British Guy on his next video. And of course $10. You get all the perks of the other tiers. You get your name in the credits, you get a shout out on his next video, and you get to basically suggest a video that he can do as long as it's British based and doesn't violate any YouTube community guidelines. After all, it's for the greater good. The greater good. But as time has moved on and more information comes about, you hear about his wife, and his wife had very loyalist connections. You hear about Arnold being reprimanded by George Washington because other officers had complained about him, even made up charges to try to get this man discredited. Arnold was passed over for promotion by literally junior officers that literally surpassed him and were promoted over him. So there's a bit of resentment. I can imagine. I just feel that there's more to the Benedict Arnold story than just a cheating wife or a loyalist wife who conned him into giving up West Point. There had to have been more to it. You just can't get so cut and dry. Was Benedict Arnold the result of a tragic form of circumstances? Was it a situation whereby he became so disillusioned with what America was supposed to stand for that he was willing to betray his country? Nobody wakes up going, well, I think I'll betray my country today. You have to, there has to be this push, there has to be this downward spiral. And after watching Benedict Arnold, Hero Betrayed, which is narrated by Martin Sheen, I'm left to wonder, what was it like to have literally subordinates turn on you simply because they were using their political influence in Congress to get what they wanted, and they saw Benedict Arnold as being in the way. When Arnold did try to betray West Point, he even did write Washington to explain his actions. To be perfectly honest, how many of you knew that? It's also suggested that to downplay Arnold, he was villainized, so there would be no other people defecting. One of the one of the things that I found in my research was that Arnold had expected this wave of people to follow him because his men followed him fanatically. They were inspired by Arnold, which is something you don't learn in the history books. So you'll have to wonder, what were the circumstances? If you get the chance, check out the movie. I just don't believe that the fall of Benedict Arnold was so cut and dry. I believe that to protect the country, he was villainized to prevent any more people from defecting. Because let's face it, if he's a war hero, which he was, and his name is in the paper and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you learn that, he betrayed his country, people might sit there and wonder, well, maybe the cause is not so certain after all. This is 1780. England doesn't recognize the independence of the United States until 1783. Still 3 years more to the war. So maybe the Continental forces had to do what they did. The unfortunate result was, all people know as far as Americans are concerned, as far as I'm concerned, is Benedict Arnold betrayed his country. He attempted to turn over West Point to the British, which would have been a fatal blow. Think about it. Give it some thought. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hateful comments from a lot of people, but honestly, it's not that I'm denying what Arnold did. Arnold betrayed his country. What I am saying is, what are all the circumstances? What are all the circumstances that led to the betrayal? All the things that weren't discussed in the history books, except a little paragraph that said Benedict Arnold in 1780 attempted to betray his country. You don't fight a war, make it to the rank of Major General. Lead your troops into battle. Saratoga, don't forget the Quebec campaign. When it comes to what Benedict Arnold did, people are like, well, West Point. You don't know anything before that. I understand that there's a lot going on with Benedict Arnold's wife, that maybe she was a loyalist and she turned him, or she convinced him to do it. I have no idea what the exact circumstances were. We can only go by the letters, things that were written. And several things that were written there were several officers that literally did not like Arnold. And they did what they can to discredit him or get him removed from command. So, that's my rant. Leave a comment below. I'm Mark Stise, and I'm the part-time British guy.